Thank you.
And his beautiful wife is also.
Yes.
Kicking and screaming.
Alrighty. So yes, I am Kyle Chambers with Texas Quality Assurance. We're a small local quality management company. Here in the Houston area. Our office is in Pearland, and we live in Friendswood, so we're just right around the corner from here, basically. So yes, I was invited to speak last month. That went really well. I had a lot of fun with it, and so very pleased to be here to speak again this month. So again, all the recording equipment is because we have a podcast. It is in fact the only podcast available dedicated to quality and quality management. No one else is doing one. Hopefully it stays that way. We can, keep on top if you're only one. It's easy to do. But no, we have a whole lot of fun with it. So the podcast is just a great way to kind of talk about these things that we all deal with in our kind of everyday lives that most people really don't understand and maybe don't interface with on a real regular way. So today's topic is, yes, the role of systems and the value of habits in a QMS, which at first doesn't sound terribly interesting, but we'll have a little bit of fun with it. This is something that is actually kind of a big value to me in my consultation work. Is you really have to get folks used to doing the same thing in the same way each time for a lot of the processes. Doesn't really matter where you're at. Like a gentleman over here was talking about, he was in accounting and finance, and so you go to a weld shop. It's the same thing. We've got certain things that have to be done in a certain manner each time, and so these provide a lot of value in our day-to-day lives. They save us time, they save us energy, and just make everything run better. So, a few quotes. Everyone's probably heard of. I bet most of you all have read this book. I don't know many professional people that haven't. It's kind of like the Bible for professionals, just about. So, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So, what he goes into here, and I'm not going to give you a full breakdown of the book, just a few quotes I really like from it, is he says that we will define a habit, because habits are super important, as the intersection of knowledge, skills, and the last one, desire. You don't really think much about that. You don't really form a habit unless it's something you really want to do. Knowledge is a theoretical paradigm. The what we do and the why. The skill is the how we do it. And the desire motivation is the want to do it. In order to do something, we have to have a habit in our lives. You have to have all 3. When you put on your shirt in the morning, what arm do you use? What arm do you put in first? Run yourself through putting your shirt on in the morning. What arm goes in first? Yeah, you got the right arm going in first. Yeah, right arm. A few of y'all, I'm a left arm. I don't know, I'm weird. But you probably do it the same way every single time. Now, realistically, you do it that same way because that's probably what your mom or dad taught you, right? So they told you, put your arm in. No, the other arm. And so you did it, and now that's what you do later on in life. But we learn these habits, and these habits are really important. Just imagine, seriously, think about this for a minute. You go to get dressed in the morning. It's already a hard enough time to pick out what you're going to wear sometimes. But now you're sitting there debating, which arm do I put in first? Which leg do I put in first? Just imagine that you have to actually have that conscious thought every single time. It's going to slow you down. It's going to be a little bit annoying. I know it's a silly example, but as I mentioned last week, I love silly examples. Silly examples are easy to understand and easy to remember. So we have to look at it that way. Here's another one that I really love from the book. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So you can kind of ponder on that for a minute. Then, got a game for y'all. We'll tie in, I promise. So, you can pass it around, try it, pass it on. Everyone ever played this game before? Mm-hmm. Called Tricky Triangle. You,
Cracker Barrel?
Yeah. So you skip a peg, you pull the peg, you skip. You skip a peg, you pull the peg, you skip. And the goal is that you only have one peg left at the end. But it's very simple, right? I mean, this is a very, very simple process, very simple skill, but good luck doing it. So we'll let y'all kind of mess with that a little bit as, well, Eli did it the other day. Our middle son, he did it. I think it took him like 20 tries, but he finally did it.
He probably cheated.
He probably did. He probably did. So we've all heard here. I'll wait to come to that slide real quick. So we've all heard it takes so many days to form a habit. How many days does it take to form a habit?
30.
21. 21 is what most of us have probably heard. So, but we're close. We're close. So the fact is, everyone quotes this too. Like, my gosh, everyone. So, plastic surgeon in the 1950s. He's basically a guy named Maxwell Maltz. He noticed a pattern. Is if he removed the limb from someone, it'd take them about 21 days to quit feeling the phantom limb, to quit trying to use the arm that was no longer there. If he did reconstructive surgery on their face or something, it took them about 21 days to look in the mirror and be used to seeing themselves. So this kind of anecdotal finding that he hadn't published has been robbed by the entire self-help and influencer and coaching and business development model. So we got everyone from Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins. They all get up there and preach. It takes 21 days to form a habit. I even recently did my own little 21-day challenge on LinkedIn, where I'd get up at 4:30, have my coffee, do a little Bible study, make my to-do list. 21 days really is kind of about right, but the question is, really, is there any science to that? So look at that. It's just weird stuff. I just wonder, is there any science to this? And my wife is cracking up over there. She hears this stuff all the time. So this is Darcy. I'll just go ahead and embarrass her right now since I did it earlier. So my wife Darcy. So she is technically the host of our podcast. She keeps me from getting too geeky, but she's not up here right now, so I'm gonna have a field day.
I can still stop.
Okay. So we all kind of look at 21 days as this ideal right answer, but it turns out they did a big study, and I won't give you a whole lot of details on it. If you want more information, I can email you my sources some other time. But 2009, there's a big study done to figure out how long does it actually take to form a habit. Fact is, it's all over the place. Depends on what it is. But they actually found that it takes more than 2 months. Exactly 66 days was their average. Now, how many of y'all have put a new management system in place before, kind of ground up? We've all done that before, right? The auditor, before they come in and audit you, they want, 3 to 4 months of records before they show up, generally? Well, there's some logic to that 3 to 4 months, because what we're saying here is it takes more than 2 months to even form a habit. So we kind of want another couple of months just to see if people are doing what they've learned. But this poses a really, really interesting question. If it truly takes 2 months to form a habit, whereas the 21 days is kind of to get used to something, think about training in your workplace. So we put together a training program. We have the big company powwow. We tell everyone here's how it is, and we give them a procedure, and we tell them, go do your job. And then we wonder why it's not well accepted. And then we wonder why people are still doing it the old way. And we wonder why people are still stashing the old procedure in a toolbox and only pull out the new one when the auditor's around. We wonder these things because we as management, as coaches, as leaders, we have just simply assumed that they're going to take it and run with it. Now that might be what a lot of us in this room do, but that's why we're in the career we have, because we like these type of things. We actually kind of embrace change to some degree, I'm going to bet. Most people don't. Most people absolutely hate and abhor change in every way you can possibly do it. So if that's who your target market is in your workplace, you got to recognize that new procedure that you put in place, the new policy you put into place, at best, if executed thoroughly, won't be working for 2 months. You gotta wait 2 months before that sucker is working properly. And that's if you're on top of it and make sure that everyone's executing everything. So that's kind of where I see the value in this study. So it takes 21 days, about 3 to 4 weeks for folks to kind of accept a change. Takes another month for them to get used to doing that every day. But again, silly examples. Teen drivers, are they safer or more dangerous than more experienced drivers? Yeah, teen drivers more, a little more dangerous than more experienced drivers. Why? Why is a teen driver not as good as a driver that's 40?
They're too cautious with the body.
Yeah, it could be. That's actually a very good point. They're too cautious. Could be that because they don't know what to expect. They don't have those little built-in, memories and built-in protocols to predict what someone's going to do. So they really have to wait on it. So that's a good one. So, teen drivers, if you look at the numbers again, I got all the sources somewhere else. Teen drivers are 20% more likely to be involved in an accident than any other group. I'll be honest, I expected the number to be bigger. So I guess that says something for either modern road safety or how we train kids to drive, but still, they're 20% more likely to be in an accident. So if you've got a project at work that's 20% more likely to flop, you're probably going to pay special attention to it. But here's what was really interesting to me, is newly licensed teens, that's meaning 16-year-old first-year drivers, have a crash rate that's 1.5 times higher than the 18 to 19-year-old teens. So that first year, now that's a whopper. That's a real whopper. So, and here's another one that's fun, is teens allow only 1/2 distance to the next car from the older drivers. So they don't have those habits formed. When you turn on your blinker in your car, do you have to think which way's left, is down left or is up left? Like, you don't think that no more, right? But those teen drivers, they have to think that. They have to think. Everything is a conscious decision. Everything is a conscious decision. And conscious decisions take a lot more effort. It's like the little game you'll pass around right now. You have to plan every single move. It takes a lot more effort. So, if conscious decisions take more time, again, weird questions I ask myself. How much more time does it take? So how quickly can you actually make a decision? Like, we've all had things that we sat and pondered on for days or weeks trying to figure out the right thing to do, right? That's obviously not very efficient in your day-to-day operations of your business. So you tend to have to rely on those quick decisions you're not even aware you made. Which hand do you just pick up your fork with? You didn't think about it, you just did it. And you just do it. So, it's really amazing, it really is, to consider how fast you can make a decision. Decisions are almost always made and acted on in less than 150 milliseconds. So we're talking about little teensy tiny fractions of a second when something occurs to decide what to do. Again, driving is, to me, the perfect example of this. Because when the driver in front of you hits the brakes, you're probably going to hit your brakes at least within 150 milliseconds. You'll think after the fact, did I hit my brakes? There are even some things that are built into our systems that where we can act even faster. We were talking about snakes earlier. It seems that there are built-in programs within our nervous system for snakes. So unless you're a person that's accustomed to handling snakes, we'll talk about not the weird folks over here, the normal folks that are scared of them. So if you're a normal guy that's scared of a snake, you can actually respond within 5 milliseconds to the sight of a snake. The fact is your body will identify the pattern of a snake and you will jump before you're even consciously aware that you have jumped. I think we talked a little bit last time, this is what gave me the idea to do this this week, is Major League Baseball. When they go to hit the ball, it's an incredibly short period of time from that pitch to getting to the plate. The fact is that the batter can only see the ball for less than 1/3 of its travel. The batter sees what the pitcher's arm did, he sees the release, but he can only actually see the ball for a third of the travel. The rest of the time, his brain's trying to catch up on the data that's processing. And so he has to make that decision of where and how he's going to swing and where he's going to hit before the ball ever is even halfway to the plate. And then this is based off of habits. He has done this, you can have two guys that are in identical physical shape, but one spent 10 years playing baseball, the other one spent 10 years playing football. You can't switch them. I think people like to make fun of Michael Jordan. He tried to enter baseball after he'd done so well in basketball, and it was a total flop. Why? He might have been an amazing athlete, but he did not have those habits formed to do the job properly. So, what this means is that generally we take about 1/10 of a second to react to whatever happens, and we can go a lot faster. That's the example here on the bottom. Is in a sprint. So you take like any type of competitive sports. So you say you've got your high school track team, and these are the kids competing for state. When they shout "go," they can actually respond within 1/100th of a second. Within 1/100th of a second of the shot being fired for them to run, they've responded. So we act very, very quickly. And it seems to me that a decision that can be made and made expertly in 1/100th of a second, well, that has value. There's a lot of value in the workplace. Why is it the old timers in the shops are generally the ones that, or you're not always, generally your best workers, right? So you got a guy that's been welding for 40 years. As long as he's willing to learn new things, he's probably the best guy in your whole shop. On the other hand, the new guy that just got promoted to inspection probably takes him about 2 or 3 times as long to check the work, and he misses 2 or 3 times as many indications as someone that's been doing it for a few years, because he's having to spend too much conscious effort. So that begs the question here, why do we write procedures if it's all about these snap reactions? Why do we have procedures?
Consistency.
Amen? So you get to go reference those procedures, right? Are people generally good at memorizing things? Generally not. Some of us are better than others. I'm definitely not one of them. So we want to have that procedure available to go re-reference, but in a given procedure or in a given work instruction, how much that pertains to what someone's doing in that very moment?
That's always a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you put in all this other stuff that explains why this is important and everything, instead of just like. Yeah. So it's which kind of gets us into a little bit of a contradiction. I'm glad you brought that up, because you'll hear other folks that say, well, you got to tell people why. If they don't understand the why of what you're doing, they're not going to go do it, which is true. But if you don't have a detail of the what, and you don't have a detail of the how documented and trained on and practiced on, the why doesn't matter. Why doesn't matter at all. I mean, if you've not taught a kid how to drive, it doesn't matter how badly he wants to go to the mall. And he's going to die on his way to get there. You have to teach him the how and the what. And you got to practice it. You got to practice it a lot. What's a system? We talk about quality management systems. And I think we all deal a lot in the quality management world. We've got our forms, we've got a checklist, we've got our procedures, we've got our training programs, we've got our policies, we've got our mission statements, right? But what's the S to QMS? What's the system?
It's a process.
It's a process. It's interconnected processes. What if you do it differently each time?
Then you don't have consistency.
You don't have no consistency. It doesn't matter. So again, this brings us back to kind of the point I started with, is looking at training. I was on a call this morning where someone was complaining about their training program, that it's so frustrating to them that they put a training out, they train the guys on it, and they send them out to the field and then they mess it up. He's a landscape company, right? And so he's all frustrated that his guys are only hitting about 60, maybe at best 80% of what they're supposed to do on that landscaping job. but he did a training that morning. Isn't that good enough? Shouldn't that be good enough? And so I just chimed in with a quick question as I asked him. I was like, well, why don't you put down a little laydown yard next to your facility? And so if you have a new product that you're offering to these folks, have them go out to your little laydown yard and do it out there. And have the whole team watch him while he does it out there. And then rotate. And then rotate. Do your training that way. Now it might take more time. It's probably going to take you a full day to do that versus the 20 minutes to say, here's the drawing, go with it. But then you're getting 99% effectiveness. It's a lot better. You know, yeah, labor cost is high, but retained customers are a lot more profitable. So it's kind of the idea of the system, is the system enables you to do it, but we neglect the system a lot of the time in our QMS, because it's kind of boring. I mean, think about it. It's really kind of boring. How many times do you want to watch a guy screw in a bolt? Screw a nut to a bolt. How many times do you want to watch that? And then test it to see if he hit it to the right torque. I mean, that is just some boring mess. We don't really want to do that. We'd rather just say, hey, you did it good. All right, let's move on. We'd rather have a training event like this where we bring everyone into a conference room and we talk about what we're doing and we put up the slideshow and then send everyone out and say, go do it. It feels good. Maybe even everyone in the room is chiming in, you know? You get that good interaction from the group. But then when they go back out, how much repetition have they had? Again, let's go back to teaching a team to drive. Imagine teaching your team to drive using the same techniques that we use in our workplace. that 20% number will go up to the 50 or 60% that I expected it to be. So I guess it is evidence that we do a somewhat better job training teams to drive than I thought. So, if you're going to implement a quality management system, and we're not talking about just the quality management side, we're talking about the system side. What are some aspects you need to consider that maybe you hadn't looked at before?
How many people?
That's a big one. That's a big one. I'll tell you right now, when I do group trainings, I hate to get a group that's more than 12 people. I hate a group more than 12 people. It's at the magic number, to me it is, but other folks might be a little different. But people tend to get quiet when there's too many folks in the room. So that 8 to 12, that is the ideal range to me. So that's a big one. But isn't it more efficient to pull all 100 people into, you know, the shop and even get up there with a microphone and talk to everyone about what's going on? It's way more efficient, right? Well,
It takes less time, but it's a lot less effective, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So we got to keep that effectiveness in there with the efficiency. So we've all done, you know, these different risk assessments, right? Well, when you do a risk assessment, what do you're looking at? Well, how likely is this to go wrong? Okay, well let's do the same thing here, because so much of this boils down to training and execution. The way we're handling it, what's the likelihood that this will go well? I'm not asking, did you meet the requirements for your auditor? I am an ISO auditor. I do the third-party ISO audits. I see this all the time. This is why it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Is yes, you met all the requirements to say train the guy. But how do you know that they're competent? I mean, really, how do you know they're competent? And how long do you need to give them, which we already kind of have the answer here, if you put a new system into place? What's the minimum amount of time it's probably going to take to be effective?
66 days.
66 days. There you go. That is the likely minimum amount of time it's going to take to be effective, because people got to make it a habit. Because if you think about it, animals have a much simpler brain than we do, right? So, but they can still walk. They can still hunt. They can still do all of these incredibly complex tasks. It's our frontal cortex. It's this big lobe in the front of our brain that allows us to make complex decisions but it is incredibly slow, ineffective, and doubts itself frequently. Doubts itself frequently. So we mentioned about procedures, right? How long are y'all's procedures?
Too long.
Too long? Page count. Give me a page count. How long are some of y'all's procedures?
3 to 5.
3 to 5 pages. That's usually pretty good. You got like the front page, it's the purpose and the scope and definitions. And so of that, how much do people need to know that they're going to do repeatedly? Hardly any. Hardly any. We have to focus on the aspects of the job that aren't just for the final output of compliance, but we have to focus on those aspects of the job that are repeatable. What are the repeatable tasks? I mean, go back to what we had in the first couple of slides there, right? Is performed over and over is excellence. So if we have these critical tasks that need to be repeated over and over effectively, where do you store that information? How do you make it available to folks so that when they need that information, it's there? There's no right answer here, but how do you make it available to folks when they need it?
Computer.
Could be. Could be.
Posted at your station.
I'm sorry?
Some of the companies I mentioned that audited, they have them posted like for tasks that
Mhm.
they do,
Mhm.
right at their station so they can always look at it.
Yep. Nope, and I like that. I'll tell you, part of what I do for the business is I develop quality management software. I've got way more Microsoft certifications than I do quality certifications. So, my first computer cert was in 2001. So you would think that I'd be all about the computer solution, especially seeing as I sell the software for a living. Design and develop the software, then sell it. But they only have so much of a space in your day-to-day life. Because how long does it take to find that company site where all of the information is stored? It takes time. And if they don't access it, say you put it on their phone, well, maybe it's on page 3 of all of their icons, right? So now they got to remember where that is. What's the icon look like? You throw too many decisions in someone's face. So, yeah, definitely, I love the idea of putting the stuff at the point of use. The other place that it should be maintained is in their noggin, but not here in the front decision-making part. We're here in the back. Learn skills, motor skills. That's why I never forget to ride a bike. It's like your brain just memorizes the motions, and you just stick with it. And it just sticks. Maybe if you could do tricks as a kid, can't do tricks as an adult, but the majority of it just sticks. So that's another, that's where it needs to be stored as well, is we've got to get it off that paper and into kind of that rote memory. How'd y'all do? You didn't do well? Well,
I didn't have any left. I dropped the board.
but it's so simple.
No pegs left.
It's so simple. It's so simple to do. So, how long do you think that would take you to figure it out? Just simple decisions. How long do you think that'd take you?
About $100 worth at,
66 days.
Maybe so. Hang on here, sorry. I thought this would slide over better than it does. There we go. So, probably take a few hours reasonably to figure it out. Maybe some of y'all are a little brighter than the others. It'd take you at least 30 minutes probably. This kid did it in a minute, less than a minute. Is he referencing a procedure to do that?
No.
He just did it enough times. He's good at it. That's where we got to get the knowledge at our workplaces. So we got to get that knowledge into our people's heads, which I'll be honest, goes against a lot of corporate management philosophy that we should have everything documented so that we can bring anyone in here and teach them to do the job. This is true, but teaching them to do the job is the key. And so this kid's not referencing a procedure. So it's all locked in his head, which is the most efficient and best place for it to be.
Man.
Oh.
Yes, I
Who knows what comes up next?
All right. So that's it. That's it. Any questions? Any comments? No?
One thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about procedures and having them available and having them before work and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've been in a couple different places, and one of the places had culture where it was like considered a sign of weakness unless it was in your head. And so people wouldn't reference a piece of paper or a document or something that was written. And so that was the thing that we learned is like, you had to kind of overcome that at the beginning. You know? It was interesting.
That is. It's, you know, and that's the other thing is anything taken to an extreme is dangerous. Any idea taken to an extreme is dangerous.
When I was writing procedures, I made sure that each department had their own set of procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Because when auditors came, and I not only had to satisfy internal audit,
Yep.
state audit,
Yep.
federal audit,
Yep.
they looked at the procedures and the process to make sure that they were doing the things.
Mhm.
And this was even in the financial end.
Yeah.
We had to prove that the procedures were being followed.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make sure that I wrote the procedures
Yeah.
to ensure compliance with all three
Yeah.
entities.
Yeah, and no doubt that the documentation piece is vital. I was just yesterday, oil and gas company in downtown that I'm working with. I was absolutely blown away at how little documentation they have. I mean, it is next to nothing. On the flip side, though, most anyone I talk to in the facility tells me the same story. So then the question is are they doing good? Are they doing bad? By tonight's presentational standards, I would say they're actually doing good. When I go to do an audit, they're of course doing bad. But again, any idea to an extreme is no good. Heck, I tell that to our middle son all the time. I'm like, buddy, keep it in the middle. Because they'll get too excited, they'll get too sad, and I'm like, nope, just keep it in the middle. You keep it in the middle, you'll probably do good.
You know, Sarbanes-Oxley was one of the biggest drivers
Uh-huh.
ensuring that everybody follows the procedures.
Yeah.
Again, it's all part of the Enron fiasco.
Yeah. But the best way for someone to follow that procedure is to have done it effectively and been measured on it so many times that they don't even have to think about it no more.
And
So-
it got to the point that people didn't want to do it, and said, well, why do I have to do it? And I finally had to tell them, because I'm telling you, you have to do it.
Sometimes there's a good reason. There's a good reason. You got something over here?
Yes, Kyle, you asked, how many pages do we typically have in procedures?
Yeah.
When you ask that, I'm thinking, well, we got procedures, we got work instructions, we got
Mhm.
desktop instructions.
Yep.
And so you got this tiered approach.
Uh-huh.
So does it make sense to have one being heavier on detail and so forth than the other?
Mhm.
If the procedure is walking down and says point to a work instruction for
Right.
step 3 and so forth,
Yep.
and the work instruction points to a desktop instruction, you know, to
Yep.
make it more complicated, you know?
No.
We can make it happen that way.
You can. I've been guilty of doing it myself before. The first time I put a system in place for my old company, I did very similar there. Because the first go around that I had is what I think most of us have seen at some point in your career, at least, is you get this 100-page manual with everything in it that you need, but then it's impossible for anyone but the author to navigate the sucker. So that's no good. And so that was the second method that I went to. It's fine. Well, we're going to tier it out. We're going to go policies, procedures, and work instructions. And work instructions were divvied up a few different ways. And this was before I built any software, so I'm doing it still just on network file shares and Word docs. So the Word docs would hyperlink to another doc that it was referencing, and that would hyperlink to another doc that it was referencing, and that was fine to a point. But the way I think tends to tie more knots than most people like to untie when they're trying to find stuff. So I've run into the same problem there. So with that, I can't say that I necessarily have an easy solution, but it's definitely a problem that folks run into. But what I found works best is just running things as parallel as possible. So what I mean by that is your work instructions is, rather than segregating those possibly into different tiers of complexity, it is simply just the how to do it. And then, I talked about the what and the why, right, versus, the how. And so that was the idea that I ran with, is that our policies tell us effectively why. Our procedures tell us effectively the what, with a little bit of why. Like, you're gonna have a purpose for a procedure. So I always insist people put a purpose line at the top. Like, why does this document exist? Funny, when you force people to put that purpose statement at the top of their procedures, your procedure count's instantly cut in half. Because people kind of throw stuff out there that we need to have this, but when you force them to put a purpose on it, they consolidate. And then the work instructions were always my how. So I don't know if that helps a whole lot, but that was the only method that I've been able to find, and the software that we utilize it tiers it the exact same way.
How about the use of checklist?
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking earlier, you'd like for them to have this procedure in their mind.
Yes.
But the checklist comes in to make sure that I'm checking the box.
Yep.
Or having done all the steps here, if I need more detail on how to do the step, then I go to the procedure or
Right.
work instruction.
And so what I try to have folks do there is we take the work instruction, right? And so the work instruction can be either just a set work instruction, maybe for this widget or this process, or maybe it's in software application, click here, click there, or weld here, weld there. So that's the work instruction level. Sometimes those work instructions may come straight from the job traveler, right? So they're still tiered the same. It's just telling you what to do. So what I insist folks do is that if you're going to have someone perform a check, 100% of the time you had better tell them the exact form to use to perform that check. And I've got one client that has been fighting me on this for a while, because there's a couple of folks there that insist upon the idea of they could have a single checklist for everything. And it took me about 2 weeks to realize that's even what they were going for, because it just looked so odd and bizarre. So I always insist that they give the exact checklist. But what you can run into there, which I think is where you're going, is sometimes that one checklist, especially say it's for like a final inspection, and maybe you've got several of the exact same type of part. Like, I come from the gas turbine industry. So, we would have the first row blades. These are the first blades that catch the hot gas path, right, to rotate the turbine around. Well, we might work on 20 different types of turbines. And of those 20 different types of turbines, 12 of them are GE, and all GE turbines have 92 first stage or first row blades, right? They all have 92. So I can use the exact same inspection document for all 12 models of those turbines. So that it can get a little tricky. To your question there is, well, if someone doesn't know how to complete this checklist, which work instruction do I tell them to go to? So that can be a little difficult there. The answer that I've had to folks in that scenario is to go to the job traveler, and that job traveler should be the Bible for that project. Is that kind of in the direction you're looking at?
Well, I learned a new term, job travelers. Figure out how I can use that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We have these checklists that grew over time, because every time some bad shit happened, somebody would add another thing to the checklist. And pretty soon you get these checklists with initials and a big line through the
Yep.
rest of it, and you're like, well, that's worthless.
Yes.
So, the size of the checklist matters too.
It does. For a while I was in charge of developing all of these checklists and the forms at my old company, and I just put my foot down and said everything's going to fit on one page. If it don't fit on one page, we're gonna. It clearly has a different purpose, which is kind of what you're looking at. So I'm gonna go with that different purpose. Like maybe some of the checks that they're finding that maybe they put on like an in-process inspection checklist, but really doesn't need to be checked till final. So why are we cluttering up this in-process? Because people are gonna find an easy way out. If it gets too complex, they will find an easy way every time.
So
Which guy?
comment on Kurt's comment too, but I'm a firm believer in what gets measured gets done. Okay?
Mhm.
So, and I appreciate his comment about, all right, so we're not here now and then. But I was recently reading Quality Progress, okay? And they're big into Quality 4.0.
Right.
And they're talking digital is the name of the game, okay? So we're moving from paper to digital, right? Whether it's your phone or whatever the case may be. And we're back to talking about change management and so on and so. But I think the key is, as we go in that direction, that those, let's get it right down to where, you know, the rubber meets the road. The operator, if you will, okay? He's gotta be the man hitting the checklist, okay? And doing it digitally, whatever it is, and training for that. But I think the other big portion of it is that when things are getting done right, okay, that those people need to be recognized that, yeah, that in this week or in this month, and here's a guy that does it every day. Up in what's it? The adhesives you put on metals and turbines and everything like that, is that those people need to be respected, that they're actually doing part of the quality job, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key, you know? I'm not trying to get Jim out of a job, but I'm saying, you know, he do his audits or whatever, but, I think that's important to get that feedback to those people that are actually doing the work.
I
That,
couldn't
hey,
agree
you
more.
know what? Out of the 1,000 pieces that you inspected in the month of March, that 100%, we have had no returns, we have no so-and-so. And I mean, that's important as opposed to, just checking the list off or whatever.
Right. Well, I love the distinction you just made, because the distinction you made wasn't, you know, hey, you found your quota of nonconformities, or hey, look, our workers had X number, you know, X percentage conforming every time. The distinction you made was of everything you inspected, nothing failed, which means that inspector could have and likely did find problems, did reject things, which is great, and nothing that left his department failed. I love that. Yeah, you talk about quality 4.0, I have to laugh every time I see it, because again, like, I'm in both worlds, right? So I'm absolutely in both worlds here.
Yeah,
I
wasn't promoting it.
No.
I was reading it,
Yeah, well, it's
trying to receive it all, going, really? We're going down this road?
I have tried to put digital calipers, just calipers, like the simplest measuring device possible, digital calipers in place. What a stinking nightmare, my gosh, because then you got to make sure that's connecting to the device that's going to, make sure that the device it's going to is charged. You don't have to worry about a pencil not being charged. Pull out a pocket knife and whittle it down, you're good. There's all sorts of things, and we had, when we put those out, I mean, don't get me wrong, the accuracy of the numbers is perfect, assuming the guy knows how to use it, which that's a whole other question. But we spent like 25% more time completing inspections because we couldn't get the equipment to work. The guy would go too far away from the computer and the signal was no good. Just all sorts of weird little goofy stuff that people don't consider. In larger manufacturing plants where things are highly standardized, makes sense. In job shops, forget it.
Well, you're gonna run into a lot too, is not quite so much anymore, but when I was in manufacturing, I was trying to change processes.
Yeah.
I kept hearing, well, this is the way we've been doing it for 20 years, why do I have to change now?
Yeah.
You know, well, because I said so.
Yeah.
Because the government says so.
Yeah.
Because it's a better way of doing things.
Yeah. No, I agree. I had one guy ask me that one time, and he'd been doing this stuff, for decades, and he's getting all mad at me for changing the way you're doing stuff. And he's like, "Why do I have to change the way we've always done it?" I said, "Hey, can you pull out your cell phone for me?" He pulled out a cell phone. I said, "The world changed." He didn't have nothing to say. He was mad at me, but he had nothing to say.
Yeah. And the old timers are the worst ones.
Can be.
Because they're not computer literate,
Mm-mm.
and they don't like change.
No, and that's another thing that frustrates me with trying to force technology, which I know has nothing to do with what we're talking about today to some degree, but force the technology on the workplace is, it's hard to get folks to adapt to it. And if you're going to try to get folks to adapt to it, if you throw a piece of technology out there and it's not working perfectly, instant, you just lost it. You lost the game. I mean, you don't get a second chance. You don't get a second chance with the
No
software deployment.
credibility at all.
I'm sorry?
There's no credibility.
No, none at all. Because they know that when they pull out their caliper and write down their number, they're good. Anything else before I wrap it up? I gotta say, I really appreciate it. Y'all have no idea how much I enjoy this stuff. I just love talking to people about these topics. So it's a blast for me, and definitely thank you for having me out. And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.